Yes, sir. It's turbo time. And that's what we want to talk about. Turbos. Now, this one here, 1990 angle flange, preset, ready to go. Mm, mm, mm. This is supposed to be a TD04, and occasionally they have this in the wrong place, which could be a problem. I've had to saw those down, do all kind of stuff. It would have been ideal if that would have been up here. So I may have some fitment issues with this that I have to work out. It's a Kenigawa TD04L. Bam! Going on a new build. So let's talk about it. Whenever somebody gets on, we're going to talk about the turbos. Yes, looks like we have 8 people here. Welcome in. If you're here, make a shout out. Give me a thumbs up if you can hear me. Is this going on the Volvo? Absolutely. It is going on a 1995 yellow Volvo T5R. Man, wish I had a tripod. I just mounted that thing up on my shoulder like this. Ooh-ah! Yes, sir. Hello from Idaho. Thanks for tuning in. Whenever you go to upgrade a turbo, you definitely want to make sure that that engine and many other things on that car is on stage 0. Now, in general, when you, oh yeah, it's going to have a retune as well. When you're putting an upgraded turbo on, you're looking for more horsepower. Now, these Volvo 850s, the T5R models, the sedans, the non-R model came with about 222 horsepower here in the US. The R model came with 240 horsepower, and that's crank horsepower. With one of these, you should kind of easily, with associated mods to match, you should be able to crank that up to like 340, maybe 360 horsepower. Now, I don't know if that's crank or not. At least 330 at the wheels, about 360 is possible at the crank. So you're going to do a turbo. You're probably going to do a larger intake. You're going to do a better flowing and larger exhaust. You're going to do bigger fuel injectors. You're likely going to upgrade your fuel pump to have maybe more fuel flow to match the capabilities of this turbo. You're probably going to do an AFR so that you can monitor your air fuel ratios. When you're tuning, that's kind of important to do. Now, your AFR is simply a O2 sensor on steroids and a gauge to give you the readings off of that thing. That's a gauge that they basically don't give any normal production car is your air fuel ratio readings. Now, let's just say, for example, your regular O2 sensor sends you 100 signals a second. An AFR will probably do like 250 or 300 signals per second. It is more responsive, give you more information, help you with your tuning process. So again, this is a 19T with an angle flange. It still has your common 6x6 billet wheel, and you need to have a tuned ECU, upgraded things to get the most out of the turbo. Man, I've heard of people, I don't know why, they send me messages. Hey, Robert, I just drew a 19T on my car. My car is faster. I'm thrilled. No injectors, no exhaust, no intake stuff, no tune, and it's really a recipe to busting something in your car. Now, the reason you want to spend money on a nice turbo and get this cracking is so that you can enjoy the benefits of the power gain. You could get 50% more power out of these cars by doing all of the proper upgrades. I never recommend people do minimum upgrades. So let's get in here and talk about it. I really was planning on just talking about the care of a turbo that's installed on your car. But hey, while we're here, we might as well talk about some more. So if anybody's got any questions, comments, suggestions, let's get into it. So here it is, 19T turbo about to be installed on a Volvo. It's heavy. Ugh. Now this is a Kinagawa, I think they pronounce it. Yes, ma'am.
I got your Xbox. You didn't want it, did you?
Not necessarily.
Okay, it was at the bottom of these
You
steps.
gonna try to use it?
I don't know. I'll plug it in and see what's going
All right. So yeah, that thing was shipped from Taiwan. I think it's called Kinagawa. It's ready to install. Of course, anytime you install a new turbo, you definitely want to um, oil the prime the oil system. You don't. Anytime, a lot of people don't know this. Anytime you start the car, that turbo's spinning. It has to spin. The air goes through there to get to the engine, so it's spinning, and you don't want to spin it without coolant and oil going through it. It's lubricated and cooled with oil. It's also cooled with coolant. I got an engine down in my basement I took off of an 850R. Supposed to be high mileage. And when I pulled the engine out of the car, I looked and somebody had a improper coolant hose feeding the turbo and it had a kink in the hose. Now what's the odds of that turbo still being any good, man? I don't think so. And they gave me two turbos when I bought it. So they were definitely having turbo issues. Probably burned it up with that bad coolant hose. Let me see what kind of comments I got here so that I can respond to the comments here. I'm going to read them on my computer because that's going to be easier for me than reading them on my phone, trying to scroll through my phone on these things. Let's see, Robert, DIY Turbo. Let's see if it brings up my live interaction here. Yeah, it didn't give me a thumbnail, but it says I'm live. Let me click on that thing there. I got 14 people watching. This thing says 17. Everybody welcome here. Give a shout out where you're from if you can. So, we got here Brian. Hello from Idaho. How much was the turbo? Man, I don't know. I didn't buy it. The guy that is getting the car purchased it and shipped it to me. My guess is those turbos are probably running about $800-900. So I would say probably around there. Now you can get a remanufactured turbo from a turbo rebuilder. You can get new turbos from places like this was probably marketed on eBay. You can buy them direct from these manufacturers. You can buy other CHRAs from other places and just make sure they're going to fit the uh, front housing on that thing. And if not, you're going to have to send it to a machine shop to have it fitted. Now, if you send something like that to a machine shop, please make sure that they know what they're doing because that turbo blade has a shape to it. It swoops up. And when it fits in that housing on the front of it, that housing has to be like shaped like it. I knew a guy, he was getting turbos rebuilt. He was getting them cut open, but the guy that was cutting them open, he was just cutting them so that it fit in there. He wasn't contouring them to the angle and swoop of the compressor wheel. And these turbos wasn't lasting 5, 6,000 miles, man. They were, one of them imploded the first time the guy went down the drag strip. And he was like, he didn't know why. Well, you got helping you build these turbos, these remanufactured turbos, don't know what he's doing. He's killing you. So now you rebuilding turbos off your back because somebody just didn't do them right. Anyway, let me get back to these comments. Thank you. It is nice. Yes, the vehicle is being retuned. I'm actually resealing an engine that this turbo is going to go into. So what that mean is I'm pulling the cylinder head, I'm putting new valve stem seals in it, I'm putting new cam seals in it, I'm lapping all the valves so that they seat nice and tight. I'm removing all the carbon off of the valves and off of the pistons. I'm making sure it has good cross hatching inside the cylinder walls. I'm putting a brand new Volvo head gasket on there, brand new exhaust manifold, brand new intake manifold, that brand new crank seal on it. This engine should not leak and it should not burn oil. This is going to be like a true stage zero of an engine. Now, I'm not rebuilding the engine. I'm not putting no bigger rods in it. I'm not putting any new rings in it. If it had evidence of low compression or bad rings, I would probably do that. Then I'm going to flip the engine over and I'm going to take the oil pan off of it and I'm going to clean out the oil pan, make sure there's no sludge in there. I'm going to put new oil seal rings, O-rings on the oil pan and reattach that oil pan. And I've done that to a couple of engines and man, these engines are running like new. I mean, I go under a lot of these cars, and it's rare that I go under them and there's not no oil under them. And these cars are going 3, 4,000 miles before they need to be topped off with any oil. And I'm talking about 200 to 300,000 mile engines. Mine, when I put the new cylinder head on mine, it had 363,000 miles. And when I redid the cylinder head and resealed the engine, I was going 4,500 miles before I had to add a half a quart of oil. So even with the high miles, those engines were tight. Hey, nice. Can you send me a line? I need a retune. I have a 850 non-turbo. No idea who I can trust with a tune. Man, I'll be honest with you. I wouldn't spend a dime on retuning a NA car. I mean, I just don't know. There are things that people do to get a little bit more power out of those things. They put a 960 throttle plate on them. Maybe messing with the exhaust might do something. You can do something with cams, but there are so many turbo examples of these cars out here. Why struggle with a non-turbo model? Unless you're doing derby stuff. If you're doing derby stuff with it, then it might be worth it. And a lot of these non-turbo 850s, especially the ones with a manual transmissions, some of them are quicker off the line than the turbo ones. I've had NA cars like start to leave me in my turbo car with a 19T on it. I was like, golly, I'm in the wrong gear. I need to catch up to this thing. Of course, that didn't last long. I blew by him, but that first 4 or 5 seconds was ridiculous. He was ahead of me for 4 or 5 seconds. Shouldn't happen when you got a properly tuned turbo car. You can definitely, how should I put this? You can definitely make the car, I guess, a little faster in performance when it comes to cornering and stuff like that with suspension mods and upgrades. But as far as speed, especially top end, man, just get yourself a turbo car. It just ain't worth messing around with that thing. I mean, it's too hard. So ECU, you could use exclusive executive Bosch. I can't use it. Man, if you have a ECU I can purchase from you, uh, I'll send you a DM or you send me a text. My phone number's on my website, robertdiy.com. I'll be glad to buy that thing off you and test it, make sure it works, and pass it on to somebody that needs it. Now, if you insist on doing a retune, the only one I know that can retune these cars, and they're retuning the turbo ones, is Vast. There are a couple other people that do it for themselves, not for the general public. So I wish I could say something better, but I just don't know what to tell you about getting that thing retuned. Thanks to your help, 2 weeks ago, I sourced a very good condition K24 and R manifold off of an S60 T5 in U Pool Yard for $100 total. Thanks for being available for contact. Brian, man, you're welcome. The K24 is, kind of a nice upgrade for these cars. Of course, you want to do things that complement them. Bigger injectors, the R exhaust manifold is great. A lot of people have the Japanifold disease. Yay, Japanifold! And, an R exhaust manifold is a good upgrade as well. Get you a downpipe, get you a tune for that thing, and have you some fun. Good, I'm glad you're putting that on your 850. Now, you'll need a oil line and a custom intake for that thing. I have the intake and I may have the oil line for that too, but you can check the sources for that stuff. If you're interested in my price, send me a DM, send me a text message is best. Now, I get messages in all these different platforms, but my phone number is on my website. That's the easiest way to get in touch with me. Just send me a text or call me if this. I don't like long text messages where I have to scroll the screen 5 times to read them, and then you got 12 questions in there. Just call me and let's talk about it. A lot of times I'm not too busy. I can talk on the phone and do something at the same time. I also am driving sometimes. And man, we could talk for hours if I'm driving from here to freaking North Dakota or Lincoln, Nebraska. I got a 12-hour drive. Let's chat it up. I don't mind that at all. A lot of people, and I'm okay with this, I might keep these views down. A lot of people believe I'm too busy to talk, and sometimes I am, but most of the time I'm not. And I get people that call me, ask me specific questions about how to fix something. They're stuck. They need freed up on something. They call me. I tell them they move on. It's a 5-minute phone call, and then sometimes they throw me a bone. Sometimes they don't. I'm not stuck on the bones. But hey, if you throw me a bone, I appreciate it because this is what I do to make my living. So that's where I'm at. Yo, what's up, Sweat D? North Kakalakik. JL. Let's see what else we got going on here. I have a Buick. I have a black 2000 Volvo S70. I love it in Connecticut. Man, those are really good cars. Does that car have a turbo in it, Lorraine? Or is it a non-turbo car? Anderson. Granite Falls, Washington here. Current fleet at 88 240, 5MT, and a 94 850. 5 with a manual transmission. Sweet. Alright, where we at here? Paint her when you pull ahead. I don't know what you mean by paint it. Paint the cam cover would help make a better seal, I reckon. Good luck. Put up some videos of her. Oh, I'm definitely going to do that. Big TD! What's TD stand for, man? Man, I have a 04 and a half Volvo S40 T5. I like those 04 and a halves. Change the starter and battery. Now it just clicks. Eesh. Tried everything. will sell 2,000. It's worth way more. Need help. Sell what for 2,000? A car, a non-running car, man. I'm getting ready to make a video that you may not like. That's just my thoughts. My deal is, if you can't start and drive a car, it ain't worth $1,000 unless it has some kind of collector value. Now, if you're talking about a yellow T5R, man, I'll buy that thing with no engine, no transmission, no uh, drivetrain. I'll buy it for 1,000 or so. But if it's just your regular run of the mill car that the junkyard will pick up for 250 bucks and the insurance company will scrap for $700, I can't pay 2,000 for it if it ain't running. Now, I would pull the starter back off, have the starter tested. A lot of people put those things on without having them tested, and the starters are bad out the box. Or get a better quality starter. If you go to a local auto parts store and they sell 3 classifications of starter, this one is got a 30-day warranty. This one has a 1-year warranty, and this deluxe model has the lifetime warranty. Buy the deluxe one, because chances are the other 2 ain't no good. And they know that. That's why the warranty's short. And be honest with you, I don't want a warranty. I want it to work. I'd much rather have it work than be jacking around with a warranty. That's my motto. I need to get a T-shirt made that says that. I don't want a warranty. I want it to work, especially out the box, man. So, again, the subject matter for today was big turbos. Well, not big turbos, but turbos in general. How to take care of them, and I hadn't really talked about that yet. Do you know much about Hondas? I'm trying to get my car to pass smog. Cars are cars. There's not a whole lot of difference in them when it comes to stuff like that. There's probably a code that's stopping that Honda from passing smog. Find out what that code is, go from it, and we go from there. I think this is AI, Robert. Okay, maybe. Hi, honey. Robert and Mita's travel adventures has logged in. No, I got a long story. I don't think she's always a NA850. I have an ECM for a turbo. I just want to help, man, brother. Hey, thank you so much. And like I said, send me a text or something. I'll send you a shipping label for it. Get that thing over here, and I appreciate it. Giggity diggity 81603 hut hut. Oh my gosh. Gotta go, Robert. Thanks, Sweat. I'm trying, man. I'm doing my best. Nicker, hey, Robert, I have a 04XC that I replaced the fuel pump on. After replacing it, the fuel fills up slowly now at the pump, and now the engine dies a quarter to a half a tank of gas. I think I kinked the line. Chances are the fuel pump's defective. I hate to say it, I've seen it a bunch of times where the fuel sending unit wasn't assembled properly and something is popped loose, a seal's not in right, it's probably kinked, and it's pumping fuel back into the tank instead of pumping it up to the fuel line. I've replaced those. Ask me how I know. Also, it could be clocked wrong. It's supposed to be clocked 12 o'clock. And if it's not clocked right, the sending unit's not on the bottom of the tank, and you're not sucking up fuel at the bottom of the tank. It's up in the air. It's not getting fuel. And those cars, they have a saddlebag tank. They got fuel on both sides, so they could run out of gas pretty quick. Thank you, Robert, for helping us to restore a 850 NA with your videos, man. You are welcome. Jarek, hello, Robert, and thank you very much. Thank you very much for all the helpful Volvo videos. What is the normal boost of a 99 XC70? I get about 5 psi on the IPD gauge. The normal boost on those, I believe, is like 6 psi. So you're doing really close to what it's supposed to be. That car should have an ETM, so it should be spunky. If it's not, you may have some boost leak somewhere. And that is one thing that people really should take care of on their car, and that's boost leaks. Now, Volvo built in a boost leak at the bottom of the intercooler on most of these cars on the passenger side. If you crawl under the car, you look at the intercooler on the passenger side, there's a little weep hole that blows out condensation and oil residue. You want that to happen. That's a built-in boost leak. Other than that, you don't want any boost leaks in the system. So you need to check it for boost leaks, make sure you're not having any boost leaks, and go from there. Now, I had a car one day had a big boost leak. This boost leak was, you could almost put a ping pong ball in it, and it burned that turbo up in 500 miles. That turbo is programmed to make a certain boost. And when you have boost leaks that's not supposed to be there, that turbo is trying to boost past that boost leak, and that is going to work that turbo faster. The turbo has to spin faster to try to make up for boost leaks, and that faster speed that is spinning up is capable of burning it out. So do take care of your boost leaks. It's something that a lot of people don't know, that you can overclock your turbo when you don't have the system sealed up right. So check for boost leaks, especially if you're experiencing sluggish performance or low boost pressure. That's one thing. I don't know why they didn't give everybody boost gauges. Because without a boost gauge, you don't know if your boost is low sometimes. And you could be working your turbo harder by pushing on the gas more and clocking it up more because you don't know you got boost leaks. Do you have experience with shimming the block for more turbo PSI? I have done that, shimmed the block before. And it's easy to do. You just got to pull ahead, tap the shims in there, make sure they're level with the block. Most cars that crack a piston sleeve or crack the block, which is where the piston sleeves are, that normally happens at the top of the stroke. So most of your shims just go down about an inch into the block, into the thinner areas of those piston walls to prevent them from cracking. So you do that, you boost pressure, you kind of got something leaned up in there to stop that from splitting your block. Not that necessary for mild, increases, like for instance, these these engines in these turbo 850s, 2.3 high pressure turbo engines. Those walls are, of those piston walls, are thick enough and strong enough to take, I've heard of people running 25 psi with them, and probably up to about 360, 375 horsepower at the wheels, which is about 425 at the crank. So, at what point do you need to shim a block? Now, if you're driving a car that has a low pressure turbo engine, the displacement instead of 2.3 is 2.5. Yeah, you might want to shim that block if you're planning on hitting more than 17 psi, because that's where you're running into that danger. So, hope that makes sense. Pull ahead, put the shims in, make sure they're level with the block surface before you put the head back on. How much power can the stock fuel pump support? Man, if that fuel pump is in good shape, I've heard of people running 320 horsepower with the stock fuel pump. Now, to get more than 320 horsepower, and I'm talking about, I don't know, crank or wheel, whatever. Let's just say it's a crank. You're going to have at least an 18T. You're going to have an aftermarket intercooler. You're going to have a better flowing exhaust. You're going to have upgraded fuel injectors. You're going to have a tune. And The thing is, if your fuel pump is not supplying the fuel pressure you need, you're going to know it because it's going to be detonating or it's going to be weak. It just can't produce the boost. An example, my daughter had a fuel pump go out on her here in Cincinnati. She called me up that my car is stalled. It won't go nowhere. I can't start it. I said, did you have a check engine light? No. I said, it's the fuel pump. Have it towed home. Go get a fuel pump. She went and got a fuel pump, and her and one of my viewers installed it. And she told me that that new fuel pump cured 5 problems she had. And one of those problems was performance in passing on the interstate. So these fuel pumps get weak as they get old. And she told me these symptoms, and I made a mental note of them. I took a fuel pump, threw it in the back of my car, and I drove around. And guess what? 3, 4 months later, my car started having those same symptoms that she explained to me was cured when she changed her fuel pump. So I kept driving. I drove from Albuquerque to Pittsburgh to pick up my mom to go to unfortunately a aunt's funeral. And as I was going into Pittsburgh through Ohio, it's like I couldn't produce more than 5 or 6 psi. And it was hard for the car to pass 70 miles an hour unless I just slowly went above 70. So it was like I had a speed limit and I had a performance PSI limit. I picked up my mom, tried to leave Pittsburgh. I couldn't make it. My car was on the highway just crawling 35 miles an hour. People blowing their horn, screaming at me. I stumbled off the exit, pulled into a Walmart parking lot, changed the fuel pump real quick, and boom, that thing was back to screaming. I just went to Chicago and helped the guy replace a fuel pump. Every time he tried to step on the gas, it was like the car would start stumbling like it was going to shut off on the highway. I just put it in the video the other day. Pulled the valve stem out of the fuel rail, put a hose on it, fired up the fuel pump. The fuel was squirting about that far, trickling into the fuel container. Changed the fuel pump, wham, that car lit up like a lightning. So, as long as the fuel pump's good, it'd be okay. But if it's not, you'll know it. And there's a big thing going around where people are rewiring their fuel pumps. I talked to an electrical engineer. He was rebuilding the car. He said, I don't need that. If the wiring ain't enough, I'll know it. I don't need you to rewire my fuel pump from the battery all the way back to the tank. He said, I'm an electrical engineer and don't bother that with me. And I've known several people that's tuned cars and not have to do that. So, again, I think they're good for up to like 320, horsepower. If you're going more than that, you may want to get a better fuel pump. But the big thing, as long as it's not old and crapping out. Robert, your videos about 850 door mechanism, interior handle leakage were a huge help. Man, you are welcome, Mr. Anderson. That's the plan, man. That's why I do it. Get them doors fixed. I sent you an email on the ECM, my man. Thank you so much. I'll reply to that. I can send you a label. You can print it off and put it on the packaging and get it to me. Thank you so much. You are welcome, Jarek. Charles, good evening, Robert. Nice to see you. Thank you, Charles. After rebuilding and swapping the S70 T5 motor with the 16T into my 850, I get 10 to 12 psi at half throttle and almost 20 psi at full throttle. The wastegate seems to be adjusted properly and no vacuum leaks. If that's a stock ECU, something's wrong. And, you need to get with that before you blow something up. And 20 psi is not a crime. It is if you don't have supporting mods and a proper tune. I can hear these cars with bent rods. I can hear them with things like that going on. So I would double check the wastegate actuator Make sure the wastegate itself not hanging up. I had one. I bought a yellow sedan one time. I called it Queen Bee. And when I got it, it had a bent rod. And somebody had put a Chinesium turbo on it. And it wasn't functioning right. The wastegate was getting stuck. So it was over boosted. The actuator was adjusted right, but the wastegate itself was hanging up in there and causing that thing to overboost, and it busted the engine. So a little story, kind of fun time. One of my viewers, one of my probably incredible supporters, Sebastian, he told me about the car. It was in the Chicago area, Queen Bee. I bought the car, had it shipped to me, and I told the shipper, don't leave this car idle nowhere. You can start it, move it, shut it off. It's got a bad rod, don't do it. I get the car to Albuquerque, and I got to drive the car because I got an engine for it at the shop. I had to drive the car from my sister-in-law's where it was delivered while I was out of town to the shop. About 6-7 miles. So I start the car, it needs gas. I drive to the gas station, 1.5 miles, put some gas in it. I drive a 0.5 mile to the interstate. I'm on the interstate taking it easy, man. I'm taking it easy. I'm going like 62, 63 miles an hour. The tax rate about 2,000. And that rod breaks. Crack, snap, bing. The rod goes through the block, and I can feel parts tumbling under the car. Glue, 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 glue. But the car's still running. So I drove another 3 miles with engine parts missing, and I made it to my exit. I made it another block. I turned down to the street to go to the shop, and when I turned down there, the rod flipped and locked up in the block, and it shut the engine off. So I'm drifting down to the shop and almost made it to the shop. They had to pull me 1.5 blocks to the shop and replace the engine, but that was kind of fun driving a car that had a rod. Now I've been behind vehicles that I've seen them throw a rod on the interstate. This city maintenance truck. I'm driving like 75 and a 70 on I-40, and this maintenance truck, city maintenance truck, goes by me. He's going like 80, 82. I'm like, man, you need to slow that thing down. I can hear it roaring. He got about 150 yards ahead of me, and boom, a piston came right through the oil pan. Oil went everywhere. That truck drifted to the side. I looked at him like, oh boy, explain that to your boss. But yeah, I've seen rods come out of cars on the highway. It's kind of funny seeing stuff like that. Do you know what a reverse excrescent is? I don't know what that is, Jonathan Anthony. I'd have to look it up. I may know what it is, just don't know what it's called. Pulled into a Walmart parking lot and changed the fuel pump real quick. Dude, my mom was impressed. It took me like 18 minutes to unload the car, access the fuel pump area, put the fuel pump in there, button it up, put everything back in the car and start. It's like 18 minutes. My wife went into Walmart to go get something. I had to wait for her. I was done. We was out there chilling, waiting for her to come back out. I put a junkyard fuel pump in my 98 C70, man. When fuel pumps are $400 a pop, I have nothing against checking the fuel pumps at the junkyard and see if they look old or new. If you pull that little panel up and all that is white, brand new looking, man, take that fuel pump, especially if it's got a Volvo sticker on there or something that say Germany, because we all know they make good stuff in Germany. Now, if it's covered with dirt and it's all yellow and gunky looking, leave that there. Unless you need the carriage to rebuild another one, you don't need that old busted fuel pump. And the thing I don't like about salvage yards with fuel pumps in 850s is salvage yards like to charge you for a fuel sending unit, and it's really only the pump and the carriage. It don't have the fuel float and stuff on there. So I got to sit there and argue with them about why they need to quit trying to charge me for a whole sending unit when this is only the fuel pump. Sometimes they give in, sometimes they don't. But heck, $32 is less than $400 anyway, so I just keep it moving. Do 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 do. My S70 GLT did 12 psi, so I agree with Robert. Red flag 20 psi. I drove mine 5 years before I wrecked her. Ouch. Elijah, I love your content so much. Thanks, Robert. I've got a 98 V70R, and it's a lot of help, man. I appreciate it. Glad the videos help. All right, you're a madman. Sometimes, I think that helps when raising children, because at some point, your children have to know that you're crazier than they are, or they'll try you. My daughter found that out a couple times. I'll add that to do a full supporting bolt-ons, intercooler, larger intake piping, NA cams, Japanifold. Yay, Japanifold! A 3-inch catless exhaust. Also, engine has a K1. Oh, high beam rods. Nice. Might explain overboosting. Well, if it got them high beam rods, it could take it. Just keep pushing it. But yeah, if you put those other supporting mods on there, you'll enjoy a lot more. That car will be a lot faster. You know, my car, Panther, used to hit like 10 psi, and I would just watch that psi fade down, and it would stabilize about 7.5. It will hold 7.5 all day. And 7.5 is nice, but 10.5 is better. And I put an R exhaust manifold on it one time, and a 3-inch downpipe that pulled that heat that was bottled up at the back of that turbo with that little exhaust. Pulled that away from the turbo. Every time, man, I could hit 10 psi, 10.5 psi. It would hold that until I would let up on it. And you could have fun out in the desert where, heck, the police are going past you at 90 miles an hour. So it's nice when you got the supporting mods on that. NA cams is a good thing too, so that is a good thing to do. Hi, Robert. What can be the cause for too high compression on my 850 T5? Thank you. I don't understand what you mean by high compression. You did a compression test and the numbers came back high? What do you mean by that? Explain that one for me, please. Seen some of your videos about the S40. Thanks for your videos. You are welcome. What's up, Santos? My brother. Yes, man, I should be there before the end of the month. When I fix this 850, hopefully that'll take 4 or 5 days. Test drive that car, get that car in the hands of its new owner. I'm going straight to Lincoln, Nebraska. I probably got 4 days in Lincoln, Nebraska. That should put me close to the 15th, maybe. I'll be done in Lincoln, Nebraska. Then I'll be in Albuquerque. So that's what it looks like. I'll be there probably at least 4 or 5 days. I got to deal with storage, and I got to do a transmission swap, and I got to do an engine and trans swap on the S70 that I've parked there for a little over a year now. Do 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 do. That's right. Modded up. Okay, my '07 S40 exhaust manifold has a crack in it, over 195,000. Should I try and repair it with JB Weld, get rid of it, or source a replacement manifold? It depends on where that crack is. Now, if that crack is exposed to the atmosphere and it's making noise, it's puffing air out, you know, I'd say replace the manifold. If it's on the mating surface, replace the manifold. If it's inside where the turbo mounts, probably don't need to replace the manifold for that. But I've seen people get them welded. That's possible. But if you find a salvage yard close to you, exhaust manifolds are kind of cheap. You could probably pull one out of the salvage yard for 25 bucks. Probably buy one online for, 100 to 150 bucks. So just get a used one to replace it. Greeting, Robert. Car tries to start but won't turn over. Dash lights are on at first, then they go off. Is that a bad battery? I don't understand what you mean tries to start. Okay, so when you turn the key, Is it dead, or do you actually hear the engine cranking? Cranking and turning over is the same thing, but cranking doesn't mean that it's running or started. So the terminology is a little bit complicated there. You need five things for your car to start and run. You need, well, six things. You need a good strong battery coupled with a good starter so it cranks. If it's cranking, then you get to your five ingredients. You got to have fuel, you got to have air, you got to have compression, you got to have timing, and you got to have spark. So you have to check those five things and see what's wrong. Now, if that's a push button car, it's going to crank for 15 seconds and then stop cranking. But yeah, you need to have a good battery so it cranks. So if it's cranking, you got to see which one of those five things is missing. All right, Jay Gibson. On my C70 high pressure turbo, I swapped my driver's door with an '03 convertible. Had to swap door harnesses and door works regulator for the old C70 are obsolete and a pain. So was your 98 also a convertible or was it a hardtop? I think it was a convertible. Man, I don't know. So yeah, they changed little things in these cars over the years. So doing the harness was probably a good thing. Oh, it's a coupe. Man, they had a coupe down here in the salvage yard. I see them about twice a year maybe. And I think there's one not far from me, if I'm not mistaken. So, I mean, I don't know. If you need a coupe door, I might be able to get it. Or you need a part out of one, I might be able to get it if somebody don't beat me to it. But send me a text or call me, and I'll have me to write it down, and we'll research it, see if we can help you out there. What's up, Stephen Garrett? So, a little thing that people need to know about turbos. A turbo is part of the air system of the car. And it's kind of critical that they warm up and cool down properly. So if you have a car with a turbo, you start the car and you let it sit 10, 15, 20 seconds. Make sure, give it time for the oil to start flowing well and the coolant to start flowing well. And then drive that car modestly until your temperature and your coolant gets up to snuff. That normally takes 3 to 5 minutes. Once it gets warmed up, then you can start putting your foot in it. Now, your oil's not warmed up yet. Your coolant is. Your oil may take 20, 30 minutes to get up to temp. And you have multi-viscosity oil, so it's okay. But you definitely want that turbo to warm up a little bit before you start giving it the juice. Now, the oil's flowing through the turbo. Now, if you got an old car like I do, when you shut that car off, the oil supply is immediately shut off to the turbo. So if you got a turbo that's 800, 900 degrees and you cut that car off, the oil and the coolant in that thing is going to cook. And the oil can crystallize a little bit in there because it was burning hot and you just shut it off. You didn't let it flow through there. So what you want to do, if you've been giving it the goose, if you've been giving it the beans, if you've been knocking those Priuses in their place, whenever you go to shut that thing off, you need to let that engine, that turbo, cool down, I say at least 2 minutes. So what I normally do, my last 2 minutes to get home, I drive passively. I don't want to say like an old lady because people don't like that. I'm just going to say passively. So if I'm climbing a big hill to get home, and I got 2 big hills to get home, when I get to the top of those hills, I'm going to chill those last 2 minutes till I get to the house, park the car, might let the engine run another 30 seconds or so before I shut it off. Because I would much rather that turbo be 200 degrees, or the oil in there to be 200 to 210 versus 800 degrees in there. So I'm not going to race up the hill and then shut the engine off. I'm not going to do that. Or race all the way home and shut the engine off, or race to the top of the mountain and shut the engine off. That goes for if you climbing a mountain. Like if you're sightseeing somewhere and you go up a mountain 10, 15, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, when you get to the top, man, let that car run. Now, newer cars have what's called a oil timer or turbo timer, where you shut the car off, a little motor runs and lets the oil continue to circulate through that turbo until it senses it's cooled down, and then it shuts off. So you don't have to risk burning up that turbo. But if your car is old like mine, it don't have that timer, you definitely want to let that turbo cool down before you shut that engine off. So I hope that makes sense. That's a big deal with turbos. So number one with turbos, let them warm up and cool down. Number two with turbos, keep the oil changed often. Don't let the oil get old and gummed up and the viscosity gets real thick like pudding. So change your oil often. Number three with turbos, fix your boost leaks. Do not have boost leaks. They make the turbo work harder, and you can overclock your turbo and destroy it. I had one turbo I put in the car. It seemed great when I put it in. No play, no shaft play, no in and out, no wiggle wiggle. Put that in. A day and a half later, the turbine wheel shaft broke, fell off, fell down the downpipe. The guy called me up. Robert, the turbo you put in 2 days ago it ain't hitting on nothing, man. I think it's dead. I'm like, is it smoking? He's like, no, it's just dead. I said, well, let me check it out. Pulled that tailpipe off, that downpipe, went to go spin the wheel, see how it felt. Couldn't find the wheel. Found it down in the downpipe. And that was a K24. So you can't find those every day. Fortunate for me, I had access to one pretty quick. I might have had another one sitting. And a lot of times when I take a turbo now, if I don't know what mileage is on it or nothing, I just send it to my turbo guy and say, man, rebuild this turbo for me. I don't need any improvements done on it. I just need to know that the shaft is good, it's sealed good. I could put it on the car and count on it lasting 50,000 miles. 50,000 miles? Well, heck, when you put a turbo in the car and you juice it up to 18, 19, 20, 22 PSI, you don't think it's going to last 200,000 miles, do you? Man, when these turbos were built to run 10 PSI and you crank them up to 20, you knock the life expectancy down dramatically. Now, I heard a guy say one time that he's glad if his turbo got 35,000 miles. I was like, what? Man, I'm used to turbos going 100,000 miles. You talking about 30,000? I got to replace it? He's like, yeah, man, this turbo wasn't built for longevity. It was built to crush Priuses. That's what we do here. I said, all right, I'll just replace it every 35,000 miles then. So anyway, those are the top three things you want to do to keep your turbo lasting long. And here we go, got a nice brand new turbo. This here is reading pressure off of the housing that the compressor wheel makes. So whatever pressure is made behind this compressor wheel is read through this tube that goes to your BCS or your turbo control valve. That sends that reading over to your ECU to let your ECU know what turbo pressure, what PSI this turbo is producing at any given moment. Then down there, you got your exhaust wheel, your turbine, you got your wastegate there. This is your wastegate actuator. So your turbo control valve opens and relieves air from this nipple here that controls how much that wastegate is opened or closed. When it's closed, this turbo can spin fast, boosting pressure. When it opens up, it's bleeding that pressure off so that you don't get too much boost pressure at where you are in your programming. So there you have it. It's made up of, I guess, four, five, six main parts. You got your front housing, you got your wastegate actuator, you got your CHRA, which has your compressor wheel on it and your turbine wheel on it. You got your wastegate actuator in there. This is your wastegate. Now, if you get a turbo, these are normally preset from the whoever rebuilt it or manufactured. You could take this off and move this wastegate actuator to see if the wastegate's hanging up. Now, this is a brand new unit, so there shouldn't be no issues here. But if I have a unit like I did in my yellow Queen Bee, the one that blew the engine, when I took this arm off and tried to move this lever here to open and close this wastegate plunger in here, that thing was sticking and hanging up and wouldn't open all the way, wouldn't close all the way. And it would drop down a little bit. It was like, dang. So I put a Volvo exhaust flange on it, and that cured it. But, I really wasn't set with that turbo because it was Chinesium. So I went and got a hybrid turbo built 18T from my boy Turbo Tony. And man, let me tell you something. That car enjoyed that turbo. I got a tune from ARD, and man, I used to spank people on a regular, off the line, off the midriff, off the top end, and I would get like 33 miles to the gallon on the highway sometime with that car. I really enjoyed Queen Bee. And my good friend out there in New York has been enjoying it as well. Unfortunately, so many people would attack him from driving that car with Queen Bee on the back. He had to remove Queen Bee from the back window because people was coming at him like, what are you doing with Robert's car? So anyway, all right, let me read a couple more of these comments. High pressure turbo, hard top. Hey Robert, good to see you. What's up, Robert? Your videos are lifesavers. Thank you. That was the initial plan in starting the channel. Robert, my hero. Whoop whoop. Thank you, David. When I turn the key, I can hear the car trying to start. It doesn't. Then the car dies. So it's cranking, but it's not starting and running. So that means you got to figure out which one of those five things are wrong. And unfortunately, I've been seeing more and more cars with broken timing belts than I care for. I thought I had a couple cars that had the lawnmower syndrome, and when I couldn't get them to start, I looked down in the oil field, and the dang thing had a busted timing belt. So do check that. Thank you for seeing the turbo. I'll send you a pic of my oil and cooling line routing. I had the same layout, I think. Spike G. Hi, Robert. O2 V70 base surges when cold, but becomes normal when up to temp. Thinking TPS within the throttle body. Inexperience with this issue. Man, that O2 has a OBD2 system that is a serious snitch. I would get somebody to read codes with a Volvo class scanner and go from there. A lot of times when it's acting funny at different temperatures, it's your temp sensor, your ECT, coolant temp sensor, engine coolant temp sensor. That's probably it. That would be the easy fix. Could be the throttle body, but again, I would read the codes and go from there. Prince, your car videos are very informative. Drive the 98 Camry. Awesome. Man, Camrys, that year is a really good car, especially those 4-cylinders. The 6-cylinders are nice. They're a little more peppy, but them 4-cylinders last forever. So, anybody got any questions, comments, things they want me to touch on before I sign off here? I've been on for 59 minutes and 52 seconds. Hey Robert, I have a 99 Volvo C70 2.3, and when I get on it, the turbo is on and off and over boost. Any idea? I would do a pressure test. Chances are you might have a bypass valve leaking in the turbo if it's kind of intermittent on that stuff. That 99 has an ETM, could be an issue with the ETM. Does it have a check engine light on, or is something going on with that? May want to read codes, go from there. Check for boost leaks. I mean, I've seen some of these cars with boost pressure tubing that is garbage. You know, the stuff is 26, 27 years old. It just has no life left. That stuff needs to be replaced. So check all your vacuum, check all your boost pressure tubing. So I had a message from a guy in Texas. Hey Robert, I can't drive my car, won't move, blah blah blah. Check for codes and then check, make sure all your boost pressure tubing is connected. Week and a half later, still don't have it running. He's messaging me every other day. Did you check all the boost pressure tubing? Yeah, yeah. I fly down to Texas and I look under the car. The turbo boost pressure is like, boost tube is like off. I could, it's down there by the ground sucking up all that Texas dirt. It's like, dude, hook up your boost tube and that's going to cure your problem. So he gets down there, hooks it up. Sure enough, the car is running great. A couple hours later, I said, let me look down here and see. I look down there and he got the clamp hanging off the hose. Well, that's going to happen again, dude. You got to put that on right. You got to see tube on both sides of that clamp. If that clamp is like this, you got to have tube, you know, the pressure tubing on both sides of the clamp. You can't have it halfway through there. It's going to pop back off. Like, come on, you know. So do check that. You might need a smoker, have to take it somewhere and get it smoked if you don't have a smoker. Really, it's cheaper to purchase a smoker these days than to take it somewhere and have somebody else smoke it. You know, mechanics are plugging in 150, 175 an hour. You can buy a smoker, a good one, for 75 bucks. Plug it in, protect your mass airflow sensor, and look for boost leaks. You know, it's, if you can't do it yourself, you got to pay somebody, unfortunately. And having your car fixed is cheaper than replacing it. I promise you that. You ever consider exporting the T5Rs to Sweden? I've seen the prices over there. Man, I'll ship a car anywhere. I don't care, but somebody just got to be willing to pay for the shipping, and they got to send me a deposit to get shipping quotes. I get people overseas, they want these heavy, outrageous items, and I take 4 hours to get a shipping quote, or 6 hours, or whatever, and then they don't buy it. And I lost 4 to 6 hours. You know, that's 600, 700 bucks of my time, and they don't buy it. And you only gonna let that happen so many times before you're just gonna say, no, I'm not interested. So if somebody sends me a deposit, I'm glad they got some skin in the game. I don't lose my shirt running estimates. All right. What are you enjoying driving on the daily these days, man? Lemonade, man. Lemonade. Lemonade rides really good. Unfortunately, I need to do something about them valve stem seals. It's consuming oil. That stuff's going down the tailpipe. It's smoking. I need to pull that head, clean up those valves, put new valve stem seals in there, put a new head on it. When I do that, I'm going to put in a new exhaust manifold. I'm going to put in NA cams, and I'm going to um, redo the exhaust on it, so it'll be ready for upgrades. You know, I want to manual swap it. My wife doesn't want to manual swap it. She wants to wait until she gets another vehicle that she wants to drive. Well, I'm probably gonna manual swap it soon. So the uh, the car runs great, man. And my wife inspired me to clean it up, and the car is beautiful. And she keeps it clean for the most part, man. She she cleans that car inside almost all the time. So I'm really enjoying driving Lemonade. Get a lot of attention from it. I never intended on putting a lot of miles on it. I thought it was just going to be like take it to the show car, but it's automatic. My wife drives an automatic. So when we travel in it, she can drive it if she needs to. All right, 208,000 miles and counting on my K24 Turbo. Man, that's good. I didn't think those turbos last much more than, 170, 180,000. I hear most people talk about replacing them about then, but if it's had good care, taking care of it, like I mentioned, it could last that long. Let it warm up, let it cool down, regular oil changes, and prevent boost leaks so it don't overclock. Aside from the brakes, timing belt, tires, and hoses, batteries, and alternators, what else would you inspect on a late 90s Camry before taking it on the road? Man, that's a bad question for me because I'm a risk taker. If a car will drive 30 miles, to me, it'll drive 1,000. It doesn't know that it's driving more than 30 miles. So if you can drive the car 30 minutes, stop and get gas, and then drive it another 5 or 10 minutes, it should go 1,000 miles. I do like to make sure I got good brakes. I'm not even worried about the brakes. Let's scratch the brakes. Good tires, no coolant leaks, no major oil leaks, working AC, working cruise. And I'm gone. Man, I'll buy a car tomorrow and drive it across the country if it'll drive 30 miles. You know, you can start a car and listen for noise. If it sounds normal and quiet, just drive it. I don't do it. I got a video posted. I made a joke out of it. People ask me, what parts do I take when I hit the road to make sure my car won't break down on the road? And I was towing another car, and that was the joke. I got a whole parts car with me. No, I just get in the car, check the oil, fill it up with gas, and go. If I get a coolant leak, I fix it. You don't want to be playing coolant roulette on the highway. I was towing a car from Arkansas into Oklahoma one time and looked down and see my low coolant light. I was like, uh-oh. I lifted my head up. It said rest area 1 mile. Okay. I took the rest area. I'm kind of panicking. I got a low coolant light. I jump out of the car still running. I see coolant dripping out of my timing belt cover. That's where my water pump is. I grab a tool. 30 seconds later, I pull the timing belt cover. I see the water pump coming apart. The timing belt is hanging off of the water pump sprocket about 1/4 inch. This car ain't going to run long, and when I shut it off, it might break. I dial in the nearest auto parts store. There was an AutoZone 3.5 miles away. I jumped in the car and drove to AutoZone. I'm going to make it or I'm not going to make it. But a rest area is not the place to be broke down. You just don't have no services there. Rolled into the AutoZone parking lot. I was towing a trailer too. Turned the car off, drifted into the parking spot, went inside, bought a water pump, changed the water pump in the parking lot at the AutoZone. Took me 2.5 hours. And I was in Shawnee, Oklahoma, where they don't appreciate brothers, so they would come by and warn me not to be there when the sun got down, which I wasn't planning on being there that long. So I got my water pump replaced and got out of there. But when I got home, I took that water pump off because I'm a true believer in Volvo quality water pumps. And this water pump wasn't a Volvo pump. I got it from AutoZone. I had to get rid of it. Excuse me for a second. So again, if your car is in a reasonable condition, it doesn't have any coolant leaks, very minor oil leaks, pump it up with gas and hit the road, man. Don't even worry about it. I don't worry about it. And I've only been, I would think, broke down on the road once. I was driving across Iowa. It was like -6 degrees. Stayed the night in this little town. Got in the car in the morning. It would crank and not start. Crap. First thing you check on these Volvos is if you got oil I'm sorry, if you got fuel pressure at the rail. No fuel pressure at the rail. So I pulled the fuel relay out. Freezing. It's like 6 degrees out here. It's freezing. Diane's inside chilling. I put a jump wire in the fuel pump relay deal. Fired right up. Put the cap back on it. Left that jump wire in there. Loaded up the car the rest of the way and got out of there. Forgot that I had put a jump wire in there and drove that car for 10,000 miles with a jump wire in there. I don't know how I remembered. I was like, oh crap, I need a fuel pump relay in there. So I put a fuel pump relay back in there. But the car drove great with the jump wire in there. So, I mean, other than that, I really don't have any horror stories about the car breaking down on the highway. I had one breakdown. It was a Saturn. That's another story. I might have put that on my Patreon page. Story about that Saturn I had. Aside from brakes, timing belt, tires, hoses, batteries, alternators, what else would you inspect? I would just drive that Camry, man. Have replaced the coolant temp sensor, fresh timing belt and water pump. Bi-directional scan tool shows both good engine temps and arm is reading within specs. The uh, the arm for the ETM, you watch the sweep on the ETM deal. If you hook up with Vita, you can tell the ETM to do a test and watch the sweep, and it'll report back if it's good or not. AFM, I'm not sure what it AFM is, but yeah, you might have a bad ETM if you've already done a coolant temp sensor, because those cars are not that finicky with those. Joseph, I have a 95 Volvo 960 with an O2 sensor light, replaced it with a brand new one, but still getting a code. Any suggestion? Well, get a Bosch one if you don't have a Bosch one. Check the wiring, and if you got an O2 sensor code and it's a rear code, it could be that the cat is bad. So if it's consuming oil, you could have a clogged cat. But other than that, you could disconnect the battery post, tie the post together for 10 minutes, then hook them back up and force it to relearn the O2 sensors. That'll normally get rid of O2 sensor codes that are coming back after the O2 sensor has been replaced. Can I retrofit an S60 06 seat in a 98 C70? Man, I never tell people what they can't do. And yes, I have seen S60 seats in 850s. My wife doesn't really like the seats in the 850. So I have a set of seats out of the P3 that I'm about to put in my 850, because she rode in a P3 S60. My daughter has one. And she said, man, these seats are comfortable. I can ride in these longer than the 850 seats. So yeah, you can. And to my surprise, a lot of these vehicles have the same track width. It's like Volvo put a standard track width in there. And in a lot of these cars, you can just drop the seat in. But some of them, the back mounts are different. So I actually have 850 seat tracks that I'm prepared to take apart, the S60 seat tracks, weld the 850 seat tracks on there so that I can mount it in the floor. Now, I haven't messed around with the wiring yet. I understand those cars have airbags in the seats, where the 850s, it was like a mechanical system, and the S60, it's electronic system. So I may lose my airbags in the seats. So I need to avoid getting T-boned. But I also need to figure out how the seat wiring is, because some of these new cars, so much of this stuff goes through the CEM, all computerized stuff. It's a pain in the butt to make them work once you put it in. So I need to figure that out before I bolt the seat in and take a trip, so she can move the seat if she needs to. Long trips, you might need to lay the seat back, take a nap. All right, so Alex, 99C70 boost issue again. Thinking about replacing the TCV valve and the lines and hope that it helped, man. And that's part of kind of like a tune up for a turbo car. Robert, I have a 98 S70 T5M. The vent blows constant heat. I have to close the fresh air intakes to help prevent heat from blowing even with the fan off and on. Now, if you guys don't know how to find my videos, I got a video called How to Find Robert's Videos. You open up YouTube, you go in the search box, and you put in always has heat Volvo Robert DIY or no cold air or something like that and hit search and it'll bring up the videos that I made to address that stuff. Now, it sounds like your vehicle has a blend door motor that is stuck in the heat position. Heat always comes in the car. It never stops. There's flaps in the air chambers that close off the heat from coming in and allows cold air to come in, or it closes off the cold air and allows heat to come in. Your motor that controls heat is stuck to the heat position, and that's called a blend door motor. So you may need a blend door motor, or you may need that car to plug into a scanner that is able to clear a code or reset it so it can start working. So if you know of a Volvo mechanic in your area that has a Volvo FCR software or a VST scanner, have them plug into it and see if they can fix that. Man, I had a guy drive 16 hours to get his car to stop doing that. He was in Vegas. He couldn't take it no more. He drove all the way to Albuquerque. We fixed that car in like 7 minutes and he was prepared to drive back. But he stayed the night, drove back the next day. But his car was stuck on heat and just hooking it up to a Volvo class scanner cured that thing for him. So Mita, if you're there, send him the video on blend door motors and the VST information so that he can understand that. And I called that video ECC Boss Volvo Robert DIY. And the ECC is the electronic climate control. I called that scanner the boss because it tells these things what to do, like the boss does. And that video explained to you how that stuff works. Matty J. Matt J. Howdy, Robert. Hope to connect with you when you make it out west. I'll keep my eye on your whereabouts. Thank you, Matt. Always a pleasure to connect with you. Howdy, Robert. Thank you for all the videos. They have been a great source of information for fixing up my 850. Had to do LED reader to read OBD2, which is a lot of fun. Thanks from Norway. If you guys don't know it, there is an 850 app on the Android store. I'm not sure if it's on the iPhone store for the people that's part of the board continuum. But if you have an Android, it don't even have to have phone service. It just needs to be able to connect to the internet. You can get a dongle, I think they call them, that plugs into your OBD2 port. It Bluetooth to the phone and download that 850 app. When I bought it, it was $3. It might be $10 now. Whatever it is, that app is worth it. Get that app. It can read and clear these codes in these 850s. I think it also does in the US 98 S70s too. All right, so what we got going on here? My 99 XC90 does the same thing intermittently. It could be your ECC's going bad, or it could be a blend door motor getting stuck. You know, it's tough dealing with that. If you're in a warm climate, you can manually turn that thing to cold and disconnect the blend door and just keep it on cold. Not worry about the heat. We just talked about doing that down in Texas to a car. Quick question about towing. If I'm having trouble finding a hot wire to supply the wire harness, can I just hook it up to a 12-volt battery? If you watch my video telling you how to hook up that wiring, it tells you to run a wire from the battery. That's what you're supposed to do. There are accessories inside the car, and I found out there's a hot wire that Volvo put back on some of these cars that you can tap into and get the electricity for those tow hitch things. Now, when I go back there and find it on purpose, I'll let you guys know. But like I seen these pins on the back of the light panel on the 850 sedan, and it turned out those for plugging in your tow hitch wire and stuff. So there's that. But yeah, you could take a wire from your battery, run it through the tube that Volvo put for you to pass wiring from the engine bay into through the firewall under the fuse panel where your relays are inside the car. Run that wire along the wall behind the carpet, under the door into the trunk area, and then hook it up to your tow hitch stuff. I got a good video showing you how to do that. If you want to watch that, that's your best thing. The compression test on my 850 T5 gave values between 190 and 217. That's too high. What could be the cause? Probably the gauge is bad. Now, I've had a gauge give compression readings at like 215. That ain't a problem. The compression should be between, I think it's 165 and 185. If it's high, you just got a bad gauge. You know. Now, whenever you do a compression test, of course, you don't want values that are more than 15% off. And at 200 psi, 15% is 30 psi. So right there, you're within 30 psi with all your cylinders. It's not a problem. So what you want to do is you start the car, you have the car running. Then you disconnect fuel. You cut the fuel pump, pull the fuel pump relay, some kind of way that you pull fuel. You let the car run out of gas. So there should be no gas in the cylinders. And then you disconnect spark and do your compression test. You want the engine a little warm. So yeah, if you're reading high values, I wouldn't worry about it. I would just understand that, hey, gauge is probably reading high. I went to Yucca Valley, California, to connect with a very nice young family to do a cylinder head job on a car because he bought a brand new compression gauge and he was getting 125 across the board. So I got there, we talked about it for 30 minutes or so. We did a compression test with his gauge, 125 across the board. We plugged in my gauge, bam, 180, 175 across the board. He was ready to tear the engine apart because the compression was low in the car because he had a bad gauge. It's like, it's kind of a good thing he didn't just go on his own and tear that apart, that he wanted me involved in that because he'd have tore that engine apart for nothing. My car exhaust randomly gets, where we at? Okay, there it is. My car exhaust randomly got louder and I can feel my car shaking when I get inside. My engine looks to be shaking a little as well. Read the codes. You might have a burnt valve or something like that. And, I don't know what kind of car it is, but read the codes, follow the codes. If a car is shaking, you either got cylinder misfiring, you got bad engine mounts or something like that's going on. You could have a bad harmonic balancer. RX8 seats fit. You will weld up brackets. Very race car looking. I've seen the set of those before. They look very nice. 850 app is a godsend. It can read OBD if that's broken as well. Nice. All right. Let's see. The app is almost as good as VSD for a lot of things. Worth getting a cheap Android phone or a tablet if you are an iPhone user. Now, I need to have somebody teach me how to use the 850 app. I use it for a couple of things, but that thing probably does like 90 things that I don't know how to do. So one of these days, one of you people that are versed in the 850 app should call me, let me sit in the car, and we go through this app together so I can share with people things that this app can do for them. A lot of people don't know it because I don't use it because I don't know how. And I got a VST. Why would I wrestle with the app when I got a VST telling me everything? So I would love to learn more about the 850 app. I don't know who made the app, but if that person's out there and they can teach me how to use their app, I would appreciate it. I can share that information with more people can buy it and use it and get through their 850 issues. All right, so where we at here? Tried those apps and all kind of OBD2 readers. Turns out Volvo has a bit of a wonky with their EU Volvos 96, 97, so the OBD readers only read SRS and ABS systems. You want the 850 app, not those apps. You want the 850 app. Man, just looked it up. A new blend door motor is pricey. I have blend door motors. If you need one, send me a message. I could list them on my website for sale. And yes, they are pricey, but I can ship you one if you need one. Just let me know. I do test them before I remove them from cars that are going to the scrapyard. So I have good blend door motors. And you can plug them in and see if they work. You could actually pull your glove box. And this is what I'm going to do to Panther. Might do it to Lemonade as well. I'm going to pull the glove box, put a little hole in the glove box. I'm going to pull the harness off of the recycle motor, put it through that hole in the harness. I'm going to make another harness that'll plug into the plug and go to the recycle motor, put the glove box back in. So when I get blend door motors, I can unplug that harness, plug a blend door motor in, and hit recycle and test it. That's the easiest way to test it, is just to plug it in to recycle. Recycle is a simple function for these cars. So if you got a blend door motor you want to test, pull your glove box and plug that blend door motor into that recycle motor harness and hit recycle on your ECC and see if it goes to recycle. Okay, the rest of the codes needs 3 wires, LED bulb, and a dip. Then into the OBD port for readouts, fault codes. Your video helped me narrow down a lot. Thank you. Harbor Freight compressor testers, always wrong. Woo! Yeah, man. If there's one thing you don't want to skim on, and that's a compression tester. And I've destroyed a couple, but I always try to keep a good one with me. But if it's the same low compression across the board, it's probably the gauge. Especially if the car's running good. The car fires right up, runs smooth, sounds great, doesn't have any performance issues. Compression's probably fine. Plug a gauge in there. If you're not consuming oil or smoking or nothing, and it reads low, the gauge is probably wrong. But it's sad. You buy a new gauge and it's 50% off. Then maybe the price was 50% off. That's why they think that's okay. Would you recommend using different oil if your car is smoking and burning oil excessively? Depends on why it's burning and using oil. Mine is, I'm running 1040. 1040 is within the viscosity recommendations of the owner's manual. If it's getting bad over that, then just fix the engine, or replace the engine. I was out in California with Panther. Man, that thing was smoking so bad, I thought they were going to pull me over and take the car from me. You just don't want to be in California with your car smoking. They got like a hotline with telephone poles. Hey, I see a black Volvo smoking. Y'all want to come over here and get this thing? We don't need this smoke out here in California. We got enough smog, and we don't want us to suffocate tomorrow because this car is smoking. You don't want that. I was scared. I literally was scared. So I took that thing to New Mexico and replaced the engine in it. And 540 something thousand miles and extended oil changes. One of my last oil changes was 25,000 miles. I didn't realize I was driving the car. I promise you. That was an accident. And my good friend John sent me some oil change reminder stickers so I can put it where I can see it. I thought the car might have had 6,000 miles on the oil. I went down there, it had 25,000 miles on the oil. When I pulled that drain plug, that stuff came out like pudding. I was like, uh oh. And uh oh was right because that engine was done. You just can't skip on oil changes on a 30-year-old car with 500,000 miles on it. That's just dumb. You can't do that. That's like not changing the timing belt on the car. Do 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 do. Sometimes the junkyard will give me a blend door motors for free or less than $5 because they don't know what they are. Yay, junkyard. I'll buy 5 tested motors and send me a message, man. I know I got probably 20 of those things sitting here. And what I'm starting to do with some of these used parts that I test, I'm starting to mark them with the date that I tested them and putting good on there. Just a reminder of me. But normally when I bring a busted part off a car, I just throw it in the trash right away so it don't get mixed up. Not donuts. Okay, well, if nobody's got any more questions, it's getting close to my bedtime. It's 10:04 here in the great city of Cincinnati. And heck, I'm going to wrap it up. I appreciate everybody that came through. Appreciate everybody that asked questions. And don't forget, if you're having problems passing Priuses, you might need an upgraded turbo to stop that embarrassment from happening in the future. So pretty soon, there will be a yellow T5R sedan down in Texas cruising. Sweet ride. And man, this guy's getting, I think, a freaking really good deal on this car. I've been dragging my feet on rebuilding it, and I was going to rebuild it, make it like new, put it on Bring a Trailer, and those cars are selling between 20-25 G's on there, and this guy's getting a sweet deal. I'm glad. I'm not the greediest person on the planet. I'm glad he's getting a good deal. I'm glad I'm moving the car out of here so I can have some more space for other stuff that's going on and less stuff in the way. One of my crazy neighbors got into a dispute with somebody that he invited at his property. And I was sitting right here and I heard something scream, somebody race off. This clown threw a rock or something at his guest and busted the tail light out on Lagoon. I mean, just a little bit over, he'd have busted that back glass on that rear hatch, man. I'm like, dude, what's wrong with you? Like, are you 12 years old out here throwing stuff, hitting my cars? Like, golly. I need to find a shop. I need to save some money and find me a shop or somewhere I can store these cars out of harm's way, because it's not good having cars parked on the street nowhere. Do 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 do. All right, I had a bunch of. All right, my motors are good. The shafts they go in are broken. Oh man, I've had to deal with that. You need a airbox chamber when that happens. I've seen these flaps get stuck in there, and when you break them free, some of them breaks the little shaft. Oh, what you could do with that, I forgot about this. You can pull the motor off and put a zip tie, small zip tie on that shaft, pull that thing real tight. Or you could take it wrap some string or wire around it several times, epoxy that string or wire on there, and that'll keep that shaft where you can put the motor back in it and turn it. But make sure it turns first, because if the flaps inside are glued closed, it's going to try to break it again or to break the motor. So break the motor, break the flaps free, make sure they move, then support that shaft, put that motor back on. I've seen that. That was really weird. And unfortunately, you might have to replace the airbox chamber if you don't do a trick like this. There's always another way to skin a cat. Do, do, do. How did you show up? Not sure what that means. Oh, I'm just on here live. Robin Lee, thanks for all the info. By the way, got my hands on a B5234T engine. Nice. I'm thinking of switching out my B202S engine, non-turbo. Got any quick tips for the prep? Not really, man. I tell people just buy a turbo car, but it sounds like you're in an area or a country that's not an easy task. So if you hook up a turbo engine, you got to add the turbo piping, you got to add the wiring from the ECU to the boost control valve. You got to get an ECU that's for a turbo car. It's at any time you're going to drop an engine in, I would always say make sure you got a fresh timing belt, you got a fresh rear main seal. If there's any evidence of all that thing was leaking, and consider pulling ahead and doing new uh, valve stem seals, because you're talking about a 30-year-old engine. It might have bad valve stem seals. How about the center drive shaft exhaust mount for the 99 XC70? Had to remove the drive shaft due to the bracket rotting out. No longer available. Boo! I actually have those. I pull them off of cars that have them that are not rotted out. So I probably have a couple. If you got like $4,000 or $5,000, send me a text message and I'll sell you one of those things. No, I'm kidding. I'm not that bad. Man, stuff like that. I normally do between like 100 and 150, depending on how nice that thing is. I've heard of people doing some weird stuff to try to work around those brackets, and I've heard of people selling them for $200. So I'm normally between 100 and 150. If it's like new, it's gonna be 150. If it's got a little bit of rust on it, but none of the structural integrity is messed up, I normally do like $100, 125 for those things. You're my VST. Do you have any turbos for sale? I have turbos that I could sell you, but these turbos came out of good running cars with no turbo issues. I don't know if that's the kind of turbo you want, or you want something for performance, or I do have good turbos that I could sell you if you need one. So just tell me. I think I might have one with an angle flange, a new Chinesian one. So send me a oh, excuse me, call or text me. Secondary, send me an email, and we can get you a turbo that's good working turbo. As far as I know, it's good working. The car drove when it didn't, you know, wasn't leaking oil. It doesn't have shaft. All right, I'm gonna sign off. See my daughter leaves, and I appreciate everybody coming in. Okay, we'll definitely contact you, Robert. Yay, there's a few Turbo 850s here, but they go for 14K all the way up to 50K in price. Engine switch would be about 2 to 5K in total. Thanks for the quick info. You all have a great night. Thanks for stopping by. I'll be back soon. I'll do more of these lives later.